A single dad took his brother's place on a blind date. Her quiet question stopped him cold. The night he agreed to take his brother's place on a blind date, the rain fell like it was trying to erase the city, and for a moment, he wondered if it was a sign to stay home. He stood by the window of his small apartment, watching water stream down the glass, listening to the soft breathing of his daughter asleep in the next room, and feeling the familiar weight in his chest that never quite left him anymore. He wasn't supposed to be there tonight. He wasn't supposed to sit across from a stranger pretending to be someone else. Yet something about the request, something about the way his brother's voice cracked on the phone, had pulled him into a decision that would quietly change the course of his life. Before the story goes any further, take a moment. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, in the idea that the most unexpected moments can reshape a life, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Your support keeps stories like this alive. He was a single father in his mid-30s, worn down in ways that had nothing to do with age. His mornings began before sunrise, packing lunches, tying tiny shoes, wiping sleepy eyes, and his nights ended with exhaustion settling into his bones like a permanent guest. His wife had been gone for 3 years, taken suddenly by an illness that did not care about promises or unfinished dreams. Since then, his world had narrowed to routines, responsibilities, and the quiet grief he carried without ever speaking it aloud. Dating had not crossed his mind once. Love felt like a language he had forgotten how to speak. His younger brother, on the other hand, still believed in new beginnings. Or at least he wanted to. The blind date had been set up by a coworker who swore this woman was different, thoughtful, and tired of shallow connections. But hours before the meeting, his brother panicked. He confessed that the idea of sitting across from someone new made his chest tighten, that he wasn't ready, that he would only mess it up. The request came hesitantly, almost jokingly at first, but then serious. Could he go instead? Just this once. No expectations. Just dinner so the woman wouldn't be left waiting alone. Against his better judgment, he said yes. He told himself it was just an hour. He told himself it didn't matter. He didn't realize yet how fragile and open he actually was. The restaurant was small and softly lit, the kind of place that felt removed from the rest of the city. Warm light spilled onto the sidewalk, and inside, the air smelled of bread and herbs. He felt out of place the moment he stepped in, dressed neatly but simply, carrying the invisible weight of his life with him. When he saw her sitting at a corner table, hands folded, gaze calm, he nearly turned around. There was something steady about her, something that made pretending feel wrong before he even sat down. He took the seat, heart pounding, and reminded himself to breathe. The first minutes passed gently, filled with small observations and polite exchanges that felt almost surreal to him. He was acutely aware of every detail, the clink of cutlery, the hum of quiet conversations around them, the way his own hands bore faint scars from years of fixing things instead of talking about feelings. He felt like an imposter wearing someone else's life for the evening. As time passed, something unexpected happened. The tension he had braced for never fully arrived. Instead, there was a softness in the air, a sense of being unhurried. He found himself listening more than speaking, nodding, absorbing the presence of someone who seemed comfortable with silence. It had been so long since anyone had looked at him with simple attention, not as a provider, not as a problem solver, but just as a person. Still, guilt sat heavy in his chest. He was lying, even if the lie felt harmless. He wondered how many minutes were left before he could politely excuse himself and return to the life he knew how to live. He was just beginning to relax when it happened. She paused, eyes lowering slightly as if choosing her words with care, and then she asked a question so quietly, so gently, that it felt like it reached straight into his ribs and squeezed his heart. She asked if he had always been this tired, or if life had taught him how to carry it so well. The question stopped him cold. No one had ever asked him that. Not friends, not family, not even himself. The exhaustion she noticed wasn't the kind that sleep fixed. It was the kind that came from loving deeply and losing, from showing up every day even when you felt hollow. For a moment, he couldn't hide behind polite smiles or practiced answers. His throat tightened, and he felt the walls he had built tremble. He didn't respond right away. He couldn't. The room seemed to blur at the edges as memories surfaced uninvited. Hospital hallways. Late nights holding his daughter while she cried for a mother who wasn't coming back. Birthdays where he tried to sound cheerful and nights where he sat alone after bedtime, staring at nothing. All of it pressed forward at once, and he realized that this stranger had somehow seen straight through him. When he finally gathered himself, he didn't give details, but he let the truth show in his eyes. Something shifted then, something subtle but powerful. The evening stopped feeling like a favor he was doing for his brother and started feeling like a moment he was meant to be in. Not because romance suddenly bloomed, but because for the first time in years, he felt seen without having to explain himself. As the meal continued, the conversation deepened naturally. They spoke about ordinary things, work, routines, small joys, but beneath it all was an unspoken understanding. He noticed how she listened without interrupting, how she didn't rush to fill every pause. He realized that she, too, carried something quiet within her, a past she didn't display openly. There was a mutual recognition there, like two people standing in the same storm, acknowledging each other without words. The hardest moment came near the end of the evening, when he knew the truth could no longer wait. The lie weighed heavier now because it mattered. He felt a strange mix of fear and respect. Fear of disappointing her, respect for the honesty she deserved. He admitted, carefully, that he hadn't come as himself originally, that he had stepped in for someone else, and that he understood if she felt misled. The silence that followed felt endless. He braced himself for the evening to collapse into awkward apologies and polite goodbyes. Instead, what came was something he never expected. She absorbed the truth without anger, without embarrassment. There was curiosity, yes, and surprise, but also something like compassion. She asked about his life, not with suspicion, but with genuine interest, and when he shared that he was a single father, her expression softened in a way that made his chest ache. They parted that night without promises. No dramatic declarations. Just a shared understanding that something meaningful had passed between them, however brief. As he walked home through the damp streets, he felt lighter and heavier all at once. Lighter because he had allowed himself to be human again for an evening. Heavier because he realized how much he had been missing. The days that followed returned to their usual rhythm, but he was changed. He found himself more present. With his daughter, more patient, more aware of the small joys he had been surviving on without noticing. He didn't know if he would ever see that woman again, and part of him believed that the moment was meant to stay just that, a moment. But another part, one he thought had died with his wife, quietly hoped. A week later, a message came. Simple, thoughtful, no pressure. Just a note acknowledging the honesty he had shown and expressing a desire to continue the conversation, if he wished. He sat at the kitchen table for a long time staring at the screen, heart racing, hands trembling. Saying yes felt terrifying. Saying no felt like closing a door he had only just realized was still there. He said yes. What followed was not a whirlwind romance, not a fairy tale free of struggle. It was slow, careful, built around school schedules, bedtime routines, and the realities of grief that doesn't vanish just because happiness reappears. There were difficult conversations, moments where he doubted himself, times when the past loomed large. But there was also laughter in his kitchen again, a gentle presence beside him at the park, and a growing sense that life was not finished offering him warmth. She never tried to replace what he had lost. Instead, she honored it, respecting the love that had come before and the child who remained at the center of his world. And in doing so, she helped him understand that loving again did not mean forgetting. It meant expanding his heart, letting it stretch around new experiences without erasing old ones. Near the end of that year, on a quiet evening much like the one they had first met, he reflected on how close he had come to saying no to a simple request. How easily this chapter could have never existed. He realized that sometimes, the bravest thing a person can do is show up, even when they feel unprepared, even when they believe their best days are behind them. If this story has touched your heart, if it reminded you that healing can begin in the most unexpected ways, please take a moment now to like the video, share it, and subscribe to the channel. Your engagement helps these stories reach others who may be standing at the edge of their own second chance. And before this story ends, I have one special request. Please comment below and tell us, do you believe that one small decision can change a life? He never went on another blind date pretending to be someone else. From that night on, he chose honesty, vulnerability, and the courage to be seen. And in doing so, he discovered that even a tired heart can learn to hope again, that love can arrive quietly, asking nothing more than for you to sit down, listen, and answer one simple question truthfully.